Hey guys, we are back.
Okay, let's talk about what you had to talk about. You had some options here for us to discuss.
How many people, first thing is, how do you judge success on this podcast? Is it like number of views, hits, comments, retweets? Do we have retweets anymore?
I think we'll know it when we see it.
Okay.
I would judge success by this
uncomfortable with
podcast.
that.
No, this is good. I would judge success of this podcast is that it doesn't feel like a one-way conversation.
Oh,
that
okay.
we start getting people engaging with what
I love
they
that.
need and
Yeah.
see their value in it. And okay, you know what? I have something I want to process. I can't sit down with Chris and Keanu, but they can comment, they can email us, they can ask us, and we're sitting here talking about that. I would judge success based on engagement, not just views and follows and clicks, but genuinely engaging with our partners and beyond. So yes, if you're doing that, then the follows, the views, the subscribers, all of that will go up.
Okay.
So that's why, as we're talking about potentially what you have to discuss today, which I don't know, by the way, 6 or 7 things that he asked.
It is a secret.
We were going to discuss it before hitting record,
Right.
but I'd rather hit record and discuss it because if you hear something that you more specifically want to hear about that maybe we didn't cover today, let us know. Like it might be one of these topics we don't cover today, but they say, hey, that's really valuable. So it's about value add. It's about meeting them where they are in this podcast. By the way, Keanu, Chris, for those that are just tuning in, but
I proclaim that if we get 100 comments on a post that we have to get an alchemy tattoo.
deal.
Okay.
Deal. 100 comments on any post. On this post.
Well, I don't care on any post. I mean,
Leah's going to clip that and she'll make a good video for us.
but
so.
then we need a tattoo artist. Do you have someone?
I do. Do you have someone?
My guy just quit. He just burned out and
He quit you or he quit the industry?
that's
He's
completely
like, hey, Chris,
debatable.
I quit.
Yeah, that's completely debatable.
So we get the tattoos while recording a podcast.
I like that.
Deal?
Yeah, deal.
Okay. 100
You want
comments.
to shake on it?
You're a cool guy, but you're also a dad.
Yeah.
And it shows
Yeah.
sometimes.
Oh yeah.
It shows.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what's
All right, so I have
options we have today.
I have 7 here in no particular order, but the first one I thought of was MVP. And what does it mean for M? So in the Convergence Theory, which I shouldn't drop it like that, when you're first starting an idea as an entrepreneur, MVP is really important, minimal viable product. And then the problem with that is, how do you know how M to be? How M is M? And the byline on this is, how do you make sure your ego's not in the way of that? I mean, that's a good one.
I like that.
I know.
Immediately.
Okay.
I like
but
that
I'm
immediately.
afraid that
I
that's
almost
the
don't
best
want to.
one.
Yeah, I almost don't want to see the rest of the menu. I just want to jump in on that one.
I mean, we could go. Okay. Let's
hear a few
Okay.
more.
So 2 is let's talk about giving up and how giving up can help you scale.
Okay.
So there wasn't nearly as
No,
good.
I like that too. I just have too many thoughts on that. So
But a lot of people aren't willing to do that. Actually, kind of the 1 and 2 have a thread, which is ego. Mm-hmm. So how do you give up? And okay, the third one is where do good ideas come from? Pretty generic, but really important for an entrepreneur. The fourth one is how do you get people to come to you instead of you constantly trying to knock on doors? That, by the way, that's a big one that I developed in my career. That's a big one. 5 is okay, how do you build fertile ground? Maybe that's, I don't know why that popped in my head, but fertile ground was something that, I thought a lot of. I think the reason why is because I was having a conversation about planting seeds, and then, as an entrepreneur, you have a tendency to plant a lot of seeds, and sometimes it takes you 6 months, sometimes it takes you 24 years, and the whole being patient around that is really difficult. So 6 is, should you protect your idea? That whole notion of, I have this great idea, I don't want to tell anyone because I'm afraid they're going to steal it. And then 7 is, you can't follow every path. so one of the hard things about being an entrepreneur is you have to pick particular paths because people are going to naturally send you down multiple paths, and you have to either deny those paths or take those paths. By the way, the last one has a lot to do with burnout and success rate.
These are all really good. I do see some threads here between them,
Yeah, we can chunk 'em.
especially fertile ground and getting people to come to you. I think that those really work together. But anyway, I
I can see that.
I want to talk about MVP and how
Let's do it.
M is M. But as I'm thinking about where most people are, and as we're getting going and really just proving the value of this podcast and meeting people where they are, getting people to come to you. Let's talk about that. Let's start with that one. That's what this episode will be around. Unpack that a little bit more. Where were you when you got this idea, and get us going on that one?
So where was I when I got this idea? And it was like any idea, it was really born out of necessity. Because now, and I always tell people this, that one of the tough parts about being part of an organization where you started as 5 people and then now you're 1,800 people, one of the toughest parts is that my job evolved, and I no longer, in the beginning it was great. Everything that I did had a result, whether that result was bad or whether that result was good. Fast forward, 20 years later, everything I did had absolutely no result at all, because I had to influence people to influence people to influence people to influence people to get a result. And I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
I could probably say that ultimately is what got me out of it, because I was sick and tired of feeling like I was a cog, because I didn't have that immediate, you do something, you make a call, you have a reaction, and so born out of necessity is that in order for me to get something done that I wanted to do it, I had to go out and do enough networking to where eventually they would come to me and ask me to do it, because I didn't want to ask them.
Do you remember the first client that you had, or the first opportunity that it came and found you, not you going to find it?
Yeah.
Well, who was it? Where'd they come from?
Well, so I wanted to. So one of the things I was notorious for, that I'm not necessarily saying this is a good thing, is probably more of a sickness than it is an asset. But I always liked to start things, but I didn't like to scale them and get them into a routine. So I was never really good at productizing things, but I was always really good at getting them going and figuring out what its value was. That was one thing that I could do really well. I still can, but in a corporate environment, the issue is that the thing that you see as valuable is not necessarily what everyone else sees as valuable. So you either have to have a really big job title, which I didn't have, or you have to have, I don't know, what else, an ego, or which I did have, maybe experience, and I had a lot of influence. And so there's a big difference between a job title and influence. And so I had a lot of that. Did you want to?
Following.
You sure?
Just following.
Okay. Take me back.
We'll jump in there a little bit.
So
Okay, I wanna.
I had a lot of influence, very little title.
Yeah.
I probably had more title than I gave myself credit for, but it doesn't matter, because my thing was I had a lot of influence. Your question was, do I remember the first time? I remember the biggest one. I don't know about the first time, but I remember the biggest one was I actually wanted to start a brand new division within the company. And, the traditional path on that would be, here is the division. Here, I got a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to call a meeting. I'm going to try to convince everyone in the meeting. And it would require the heads of at least 2 departments and the CEO to agree for me to do this. But instead, what I did was I started planting seeds within those departments on what could be possible if we did this new thing. And then eventually the CEO calls me and says, "Hey, I want you to head up a new department." And it was exactly the thing that I wanted to do.
Okay, so that's incredibly valuable, and it's intrapreneurial. It's intrapreneurial,
Yeah.
but it's still internal in the company, where they're calling you to say, "Hey, we have a problem in the company, and we want you to solve it." I'm thinking about most people that are listening to this, and most people that are at Alchemy. They're solopreneurs, service-based businesses, maybe 3-4 people max. So there, I want to position this of getting people to come to you from that lens. And even then, when you were selling, whether it was direct marketing or you were selling on the Avid Exchange level, at what point did they start coming to you versus you going to them? And I think about a few things here. If we're going to talk about this, and I don't know where you wanted to take this, but I think we'll get somewhere good together, is the going from a hunter to a gatherer mindset. So when you're in sales, when you're just getting started, it's hunter. And we just started putting money into Alchemy now as our marketing. Everything else has been hunting and creating an organic market. We're just starting to put money into it, which is where most people are at. They don't have huge budgets to go and market and get people to come to them. And most of them aren't selling a tech product. They're selling themselves or a service they provide. Right. So the first thing is you have to be a hunter. You have to get out there and make yourself present. You have to be willing to get out in the community. You can't outspend the hustle of getting out and building genuine relationships. So I'm creating a theme here. So the first one is prospecting. What are you doing to get out and prospect? The second thing is, I'm going to walk you through this, and I want you to let me know how it sits with you, and then you can kind of unpack it based on your experience. The second thing is the product. If your product is not solving and meeting a need that's so tangible and clear, people aren't going to come to you because they don't know what you do. They don't know exactly the problem that you solve or the tension that you're helping to mitigate. So how is your product doing? The third thing is then the process. Is the process easy? Hey, it was a breeze to work with them. I walked in the front door of Alchemy. I had a cup of coffee. I met Leah. She gave me a tour. She sent me an intake form, and I was in. Super simple. Yep. And you don't have to sign leases. You don't have to, do credit checks to get an office and all these things that make, and I'm just using Alchemy as an example, usually make commercial real estate very unapproachable or not as accessible. Well, we're here to bridge that gap. And then personality. So as the P's were going here.
Did you make them all P's?
I did. Well, I was thinking about it, and they just happened to be P's. So I made personality work is also, how are you to work with? Do you enjoy working with you? Ryan Serhant said it in his book, Sell It Like Serhant. No one loves being sold, but everyone loves shopping with friends. So if I said, "Hey, Chris, we're going to go and we're going to look for motorcycles this weekend. Yes. You want to go with me?"
I'm there.
I'm making time, right? Yes. But it's like, "Hey, Chris, I have this motorcycle to sell you.
Yeah.
You want to come take a look at it?"
But
maybe.
In that situation, I'd be like, "Sure."
Yeah, probably. But it's also like you still feel that now you're trying to sell me something.
Yeah, I get it.
Versus let's go look together.
Yeah.
And so personality, how are you connecting with those people? So I have a couple of stories to share from the lens of building a coaching business from the ground up in 2020 through even today. Good. But built it from the ground up. And I remember the first few times people started coming to me. Now I don't prospect at all on the coaching. People come to me and then I decide if it fits or not based on what I'm doing now. But as I walk through that, prospecting, product, process, and personality, how do you get people to come to you? I would say work through those. Do you have anything to add as far as a step, but it has to be a P? Or what does this make you think of?
No, a lot. It makes me think that we have 27 podcasts because there's a lot I got to say. But on the product piece, you said something really important, which is it has to solve a problem. But the other thing is it can create an opportunity. And that's the reason why I love tech, is because tech will do both those things all at the same time. It'll fix a problem and create an opportunity. There's like this crazy inertia with it. So that's one thing I love about product. But let's talk about prospecting first. Yep. Yeah, and then I'll because you need a question. You said that you don't prospect anymore because people come to you, and I think the thing is how did you get to the point where you realized that was going to be the horse that you rode? And then the other thing is this guaranteeing you that it's getting you the business that you really want?
That's a great question. on the consulting side, which I still do some consulting, that's still, where I pay most of my bills. I'm not prospecting there. However, on the Alchemy side, I'm networking, I'm prospecting, I'm a hunter.
But so the reference was on the consulting side, you don't prospect anymore because, and I felt like you inferred that the business has gotten to a certain point where you don't have to.
Yes. One, time and capacity. So there's people that will have multiple ventures that they're working at the same time. For me, the consulting is something I'm getting away from. I don't do that consulting within Alchemy. I remember somebody shared when I was sharing this vision was like, wow, you're a business consulting, you're a business coach. That's brilliant. You'll own your own little market to sell to.
Yeah.
So narrow-minded. That's not at all what I was doing. As a matter of fact, I don't sell my consulting here within Alchemy. I'm just here for our partners. Yeah. But it's more of how much time do I have to give? So I probably spend, 16 hours a month on consulting. In those 16 hours, I make enough to sustain my family as I continue to pour into and build Alchemy. That's enough. So that allows me to be very selective with who I work with, what kind of person I work with, and what kind of problem I solve. If someone calls me for a 1-hour workshop and my price is my price, well, they can take it or leave it because I can leave it, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
So does it guarantee? It goes back years now of prospecting very intentionally to say, this is exactly what I do. This is the problem I solve. Call me when you need it. And I'll still get those calls. And from the few clients I still maintain, they'll still tell their friends, you have this people problem, you need to call Keanu.
Yeah.
And they'll say, what do they do? It's like, they're going to solve that problem. I don't know how he's going to do it for you. I know how he did it for me, but you need to call him. And that's kind of what you were getting at is, you solve a problem. People know that problem, that feeling. I know to call you. So I have a couple of stories around that.
Good.
But I want to keep going down this path with you. I feel like you were taking me somewhere.
No, I also want to.
You said, how do I guarantee that's getting the level of business I want? Because that may not be relevant to me right now. It might be, but it's definitely going to be relevant to someone listening.
And let me tell you a fear that I have for somebody listening. And the fear is that they start a business, and the first thing they do is they sink all their life savings into social media so they can start passively receiving customers so they don't have to do anything. Go ahead.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't recommend
By
it.
the
What
way,
do you think?
I know of a company I may have been or may not have been associated with that was kind of like the big go-to-market strategy is and of course, this was a huge engine with a lot of money. And so let's go and saturate the market. Let's educate the market, and let's get, let's just have people call us. Yeah. And what I was finding was, it was getting a lot of business, but the question was, is it the business that we want?
Yeah, that's a great point because one, if you are and I have no problem with putting money into marketing. Again, I believe in an organic, authentic, and genuine approach right now, if you can. But if you're a company that's that big, I'm loving now when we get people that book with us and do business with us. I had no idea who they were. It's like, wow, this is magic, but it's just digital marketing. But that's a great point. Well, what is your messaging? How is your messaging making sure that it's filtering who you do want to do business with and who you don't want, the type of mindsets, the type of demographic? How are you making sure that social media is doing that? There's ways of doing that. And then, of course, you're testing the market a little bit. So, no, I think it's a real fear. It's hey, I'm going to go dump a lot of money into the digital marketing. I was actually just having a conversation with Kat, who works with Moxie Manifest. Shout out here at Alchemy DTG. Shout out Moxie Manifest. And she was sharing they have a client that does not want to get into the sales side, the personal, the PR side, the relationship side, does not want to get on the community, just wants to say, I'll write as big a check as you want. I just want the digital to work. And I look at marketing and sales as two engines to the same plane.
Right.
The wing of each plane. You can't fly without one wing. Or you could fly with one engine, but why wouldn't you want both? You can get there faster. So sales and marketing. This person doesn't want the sales side, the PR side. Just put more money into the digital marketing. And I feel like that person's really missing out. Also, you're handicapping yourself because people buy people more than the product. When they know the person behind it, then they're more willing to engage with it.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying.
You say there's three sales. There's you sell yourself, you sell your product, then you sell your company.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I like that. Great summary there.
But I think so. Here's the. I would back up a little bit and say, well, how do you know what you want? How do you know? How do you know? And by the way, this is the question that's unanswerable. But is it the business that you want? So the question is, well, before you start to go out and prospect, well, who do you want?
That it's important to define that avatar. But I will say, being in those shoes of building that business from the ground up, you don't know until you find it, right? Like you don't know who you don't want until you work with that person. You're like, I'll never work with that kind of person again. And you don't know who you want until you get them. So one thing that I had developed early on was avatars, and I gave them a name, one male, one female. And it was actually based off my two best clients. One was a male and one was a female. And it was Brad and Summer. Brad was a
Is that their
leader.
real name?
Those are real names. Yeah, they won't mind it at all. Brad and Summer. Summer was one of my very first clients, an actual friend of mine. We partnered in business as well. But she was the first person to say, hey, I want you to come in and pour into my leaders. We've done that professional development stuff before. She went through one of my professional development processes through Elevation Church, and she said, I want this for my people. So she had the mindset, I care about pouring into them more than just pouring into the business. I know that if I build my people, it will build my business. That's a mindset I like. She's always willing to invest to grow, the humility as well. There was a lot there. Brad was the same exact way. But again, I made male and female because it's like, where's my Brad, where's my Summer? So when we did strategic planning around targeting that exact person, it's Brad and it's Summer. And the same way now at Alchemy, I have those avatars. So it's good to know what you want, but you don't know it till you find it. And you might say, I want this client with the biggest checkbook. That's and all of this, right. and they're the most annoying.
That's right.
I was just talking to someone here. I won't say who.
No shout out.
They had a not shout out for them because I don't want to give away who they were talking about. It was like, this was the most frustrating person to work with. And what she learned in this lesson was the people that pay you the most oftentimes give you the least headache. It's the people that pay you the least that give you the most headache.
Yeah.
It's nickel and diming everything, and they're frustrating, and it's not even worth your time. And so she learned a lesson that I will not work with someone like that again. I have a standard. I have to uphold that standard, and I'm not going to deviate because now that frustrated me, and you paid me less than the person who's paying me triple and causing me less headaches.
Yeah.
So you don't know what you want till you find it. You don't know what you don't want till you find it. It's kind of like dating. You got to get out there and experience it and then whittle that down. So that's the prospecting side.
Which I haven't done since 1992.
Wow.
But there's this thing in the sales process.
Don't age yourself, Chris. You look like such a young man.
I like being older. I love it. But there's a thing in the sales process called the law of 4 to 6. And it's basically the fact that decision making in corporate America, we're talking B2B sales here.
Yeah.
Decision making in corporate America has shifted from one person making a decision to a group decision. And the thought is we need to spread out the risk. I don't want to be the one holding the bag if the thing goes wrong, all that kind of stuff. So there's this law of 4 to 6. And the law of 4 to 6 basically says there's 4 to 6 decision makers that you're going to have to educate to have them make a good decision.
Okay.
And then I want to
keep going.
Don't forget
where you're going.
And in the deals, sometimes the 4 to 6 is a committee that the corporate has put together and said, hey, you as a small group, go ahead and educate yourself to make a decision. And sometimes the 4 to 6 is the entire company. And so the thought from management always was, if the 4 to 6 was the entire company, those were the deals that would close faster. And that's false.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like this is a flawed system anyway.
The 4 to 6?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't mind
whether it's flawed or not. It's a thing.
I don't mind a team leadership mindset that, hey, everyone's going to have feedback. I want to hear from you. I want you to be involved. I want you to know your voice matters, and like genuinely. And I want you to know if I don't go with what you recommended, I want you to know why, right? So just because you invite someone to the table, this is just in leadership. We're all over. This is fun. They'll find something in here that's valuable. It's just leadership is that if I invite you to the table and I say, Chris, I want your feedback, and then I don't act on your feedback or I don't make the decision you wanted me to make, that's leadership to say, just because I didn't, do what you wanted me to do or that you recommended doesn't mean I don't still value you. Here's why I made the decision I made. Now, for those being led, it's important to humble yourself to say, yeah, but you still brought me to the table. Thank you. I value that I was heard, even if you didn't do what I wanted you to. So on that side, I 100% agree with the team leadership mindset. Have people that give feedback. What I'm wondering is, because I haven't heard this 4 to 6 concept before, obviously not.
It's because I made it up.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
A big corporate thing? It's like a...
No, it was a problem within our sales process, because the problem is, and this is it kind of talking a lot about this whole thing of prospecting. The problem is the reps that I was leading would focus on one person in the deal. And I'd ask them, well, how's the deal going? And they said, it's going great. They love it. They want to do it, and they're going to do it by the end of the month. So the end of the month comes along, and guess what happened? No deal. But
yeah. Well, I think
anyway,
the breakdown that I have there is that who's responsible. We can all have input and feedback, but who is the one that's ultimately accountable for how it goes? Right? So if it's all of us, then it's like, well, all of us kind of dropped the bag. No, one person needs to be accountable more than anything. So there's things that Leah owns. She knows she's totally accountable to that, and she'll be held accountable to that. And then if it's uncertain, then it's default mine, right? It's default I'm responsible, and I'm going to hold myself accountable. So when you have a group of people that are saying, well, yeah, let's do this, well, we all kind of get the easy road out because all of us are going to be held accountable as far as, correction or any other type of measures that need to happen there. I want to go to the one person that I know is fully accountable and responsible for driving it. Because if it's groupthink, then it's like, well, I thought someone was going to do it, right? Well, now I don't know who to go to because you all thought someone was going to do a part of it.
I think I like this because the thing is we're completely opposite. And the thing is this, that I don't think they know who's responsible for it. Yeah. And then when you ask them, do you know what they say? I am.
They all take ownership.
Yes.
That's a great culture.
They say it's my budget, it's my decision, and I'm going to do it.
I think that if you have a culture like that, that's wonderful.
But
default, you're not going to get that. But if you've built that.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's... The funny thing about culture, and we've talked a lot about this, is that if you don't lead the culture and it's not intentional, the culture creates itself. Absolutely. And it's usually negative. And so this is kind of where I'm coming from, because I've been working in those really negative corporate culture environments to get them to make a decision. Yeah. And the problem is I ask someone, who's going to make the decision on this? And they always say, now I could ask 3 different people in the company individually, and they say the same thing, which is, I am.
Well, there's a quote that says, hold on, I'm going to remember. I know that in general, but I'm trying to remember exactly. Yeah, sing us in for a second as I think about it here, Chris. That's fun. Since you are a vocalist, we can always just have a little serenade us.
I should bring my ukulele.
Victory has 1,000 fathers and defeat is an orphan. I think that was Sun Tzu, but it was a very very famous.
Has 1,000 fathers and defeat is an orphan.
Why? Let's just talk about that for a second. Why is that the case?
Victory has 1,000 fathers.
Defeat is an orphan.
Defeat is an orphan. Well, is that oh gosh. Is that whole leadership principle, which is if everything goes well, then it was a team effort, but if it was a disaster, it's my fault?
No, I wish that were the case.
Is that the principle?
No, I wish that were the case. It is more so if something goes right. Oh yeah.
Well, you see this in athletics.
I want credit for it. Yes.
Well, you see this in athletics. When this is a major victory, it's a team victory. What do we have here?
Nailed that. Who said it?
Who said it? President John F. Kennedy.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay. So no, the way you put it was a very optimistic mindset, right? It's like, oh no, like if we win, we all did it. If we lose, it's nobody. No, it's more like I want to claim the victory, but I don't want to claim the defeat.
I got you.
That's not on me. That's not my fault. So
Yeah.
culture of, I like that team leadership mindset. This whole podcast might just shift into leadership and we'll go back to sales, right? It's totally cool. Leo,
But
cut
by
all
the
that
way,
out.
it's the same thing in my opinion.
Well, I think it is too.
Because we talk about influence. We talked about influence a minute ago. And if you have no influence, then you have no leadership. If you have no leadership, then
we might come back to getting people to come to you, but we're on a good leadership path right now, so we're going to stay there. The
don't tell me what to do.
culture I recommend, and then we can do what you want.
I want to do what you want.
The culture of, if you did have that type of mindset where you have 4 to 6 people saying, I'm making the decision.
Right.
Okay, it failed. Whose responsibility? And you had 6 people raise their hand and say, mine. Good on you. You built an amazing culture.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of culture I'd want to work in. And I'm not saying that's impossible, but I am saying that's not default. That's not natural. The natural tendency is, it failed, it's not my fault. And it won, I want credit. So yeah, it is definitely a sports mindset, but you can build a culture that is good in that, hey, no, it's a team. We failed and won as a team. But anyway, we got into that point. I don't know why, but it was good stuff. I mean, it is good stuff to talk about because ownership and responsibility, that's why we got there. Who's going to take responsibility in that team of 4 to 6 of decision makers? Who's the one person that I say you were responsible? Ultimately comes down to you. You know the RACI chart, RACI, right?
I can't stand that.
I can't either. I would get rid
by
of
the way,
the R and just do AC.
Well, every time they did it at my last job, the person coming up with the chart always was the one at the top. It was
Fair.
like, well, it doesn't work like
Fair,
that.
true. Okay, so RACI, very corporate. It's amazing that flies. Anyway, responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And for me, responsible and accountable, I think at the small business or the solopreneur level seems redundant. But, let's get away with just ACI. Accountable, consulted, informed. So who is ultimately going to be accountable to getting it done? Who's consulted? I'm going to get something done. I'm going to consult Leah, and I'm going to inform Chris. Just going to let you know, keep you in the loop because you're the CEO of the company, right?
Right.
So in that, there's always still that one person who's responsible, is usually the top of the chart, that it all goes back to them, that it ultimately comes back to you. One of the best leadership quotes that I heard from a man named John Bishop over at Elevation Church was, leadership is being generous with the credit, selfish with the blame, and confident that it's not about me. Right?
That's where I was going with this quote.
Yeah.
It's like, when it's a victory, everyone wins. When it's a loss, it's my responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the way it should be.
It
That is proper leadership. So that was a great leadership podcast.
How does
we could land that plane and we could come back to getting people to come to you, or we could just keep going and make this a really long episode. Where are we at right now, Leah? How long?
We're at 35.
we need to. It's going to be edited down.
Yeah,
but-
let's land this plane.
All right, let's land it.
And
I don't feel like we got it anywhere though.
No, I think we did.
Okay. You'll see in post.
Yeah, I think
right.
people get
One
something
of
out of that
you-
because what I like is that we got off on this trail that was natural.
Yeah.
And that's what I want this podcast to feel
Okay,
like. I
all
don't
right.
feel like, hey, I'm Keanu and this is Chris and welcome back to the Extraordinary
No,
Podcast.
the way that
But-
it works is you go, "Hey, this is Keanu, and I'm Chris."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, not us. Couldn't be us. All right, we're going to land this plane and we'll get on another episode. Be on the lookout for cool things happening at Alchemy. Thanks.